Dad, don't do it.
JK. Quarantine beard cut. Hey, welcome. It's Lil Lum here. Lil Lum's Helpful Art Tips. And I am coming at you with a fantastic Crayola marker tips for today. Can I say Crayola? Not sponsored. But, you know, Crayola's pretty popular water-based marker brand. And you might have that at home if you're wondering what you're going to use to make some beautiful art. So that's what I got for today. Hope you stick around and check it out. Anybody with us?
Helena.
Yeah,
Pugs for Life.
Oh, thank you guys for my loyal viewers. Appreciate it. All right, so I want to let you know that you should never discount the supplies that you have on hand. Okay, you should seek to use them to the best of your ability. The theme, I think, of the last couple episodes has been use what you have, because it doesn't matter what it is you're using. It's about how you use it. Okay, and it's about your attitude toward what you're using. Now, obviously, there are higher grade, higher level, superior pigments in more expensive things, but we're working within the framework of our limitations. So we're trying to be creative out of that. So I've got a bin of this. You know, we've been collecting markers for forever, and some of these are really old. We'll see what we've got, but
These are probably
those
the
are
oldest.
like the oldest. Yeah, these are
Those are my child.
these are the
markers.
super tip. Well, I don't know. We'll see what they do. We've got a couple
I think
of those.
they still work.
We'll try it out. Okay, you just find out what you got, test it out, and we'll see. So get a bunch of those out, and because they're water soluble, we can actually create watercolor like techniques. Can you see that? Doodly doot, doodly doot. Ah.
Kyle Horta joined us, and so did Jaimiel. She's wondering what we're doing.
Marker tips. Like, do you see what I did there? Marker tips. Tips on markers, and we're using Crayola markers because that's what I have on hand. You could use any water-based marker. I also have a single Sharpie because Sharpies are permanent. They have a fine tip.
They don't bleed.
And they don't bleed so bad, typically. So here's a drawing. Can you see that? I don't know.
Oh, there we go.
So this is something I did actually during an in-service time. We had some paper at our table, and I just started going nuts with the markers. This was a color piece, but I kind of liked it in black and white. And again, we're just mark making using pattern and texture, line elements, shape elements, and you can come up with some really good stuff. So let's just start by looking at the possibilities of the marker. I love these little pipsqueak cuties right here. When you're doing your line work, you've got a fine tip, so you can make a pretty fine line, okay? And then you can also run the marker along its side to get a wider line, and then you can, you know, kind of go back and forth between wide lines and thin lines just by adjusting the angle and the tip of the marker.
Oh, look at you. You're officially a guru.
I'm a guru, okay? Also, let's see if some of these guys work. When you're working with markers, lines and fill, right? No, those actually work. The tip is a little beat up. But this idea of repeating elements, okay? This is how you bring work from, like we talked about with crayons the other day, how you could just go, and you can do this, right? And you can fill like this, but sometimes you need to add additional texture or repeating lines. And sometimes you need to go over something again to make it a little darker. Okay, or sometimes you just need to break up the space by introducing pattern. You can fill a background with pattern. You can fill a background with repeating lines. You can follow the course of an existing line. And you can do that repeatedly. And you could even alternate colors to get really beautiful effects. So if you were trying to make a landscape scene and you wanted to integrate colors into the sky, You could practice with varying colors to get value by separating the lines out slightly. We all know that if you put more space in between the lines, what you end up with is sort of a value effect, right? And so you can do that over the course of time. All right, now.
Jaime L is wondering, if you had a lightsaber, what color would it be?
Oh man, that is a great question. And my go-to response is blue. Blue is my favorite color, and I feel like that's a positive color. So what was Luke? Was he blue or green?
I don't remember. You're asking the wrong person.
I think it changes over time, right? Because he has different lightsabers. Red, obviously, I associate with the bad guys, which I do not want to be associated with. And also, if you watch The Mandalorian, spoiler alert.
Oh no! Don't do this to us.
Spoiler,
Miguel.
are you ready?
If you don't want it to be spoiled, plug your
Okay,
ears
I won't say
now.
it then. Okay, so look how you can weave color to get a different effect. I think that looks kind of cool.
Mimi the Living Meme also joined us.
Hey, Mimi, how are you? Welcome. So we're doing marker tips. Every time I say it, I just can't get over how funny it is.
You're hilarious.
Okay, so we've got some color down, and to get the effect that I showed you earlier on the post, we got so many shadows. We're really gonna have to work on our shadows. We have to begin to incorporate water. So you can grab your recycled yogurt container, big or small, whatever you want, fill it with some water. I happen to have this cool container, which came with a children's easel. Okay, we got 2 of these, and it has this lid that's funneled, so if the water tips,
look at that.
right, it doesn't spill out. I think that's kind of cool.
And it makes it easier that you can like wipe your brush off.
Yes. So I've got some sable brushes that I dug out of my old brush box. I made myself a brush box in college.
Ye old brush
box, and I still have it. And so I'm going to get this lightly dipped. Couple things to remember: if you're working with printer paper, it's going to get gnurgly. Okay. Well, actually, the even this is Bristol, leftover Bristol. You can see those gnurgles on the paper that got pulled up. Once you see that happening, immediately stop, let it dry. Okay. If you keep going, it's just going to pull up paper, and you're going to end up with a mess. So and a hole in your paper, and you don't want that.
Unless it's part of your project, I guess.
Right. So let's see how long, if this is blended in, or if this is dried into it. It's very light right now, but it's starting to, okay, there we go. Okay, it's starting to blend as the water soaks in. So you can wash that out. And then if you're moving from one space to another, that is, if you're moving from a dark to a light or light to dark, my recommendation is to move from light to dark or work separately so that you don't end up with a muddy look. Okay, now here it's going to get a little blue-green in here because I'm mixing the blue and yellow. But what's nice about this is it adds just a hint of softness to it. So it does look like a painterly effect. All right, so I don't know if you can see how it's starting to soak through a little bit. So we just want to lay off that a bit.
Sumana Danielson is here.
Hello, Sumana. How are you? All right, so now I'm going to work on Bristol, which is more like a cardstock. If you have cardstock at home, heavy paper, I'm trying to think what else you might have. You might have some construction paper, or even something that came from packaging. If it's light enough, you can paint on it. Even if it's cardboard, as long as it's lighter cardboard, you could still do something on that. It's going to look very different. But I'm just trying to think of materials you could use. So if you want to make, say, a little landscape painting, I'm going to go with this blue for the sky, okay? And I'm literally just I'm going to try to get to the water pretty fast here. So I'm just going to block in some color. And this marker is not doing so hot, but that doesn't matter because all we want to do is right away get that blended out, okay? So I'm going to try and move that around. And we'll let that set for just a second. And then I might need... What I did in the other one was I tried to make it more like a sunrise sunset scene. So I had a little bit of yellow in the mix. And also some of this red orange that I put along the horizon line.
Jaimiel says, I forgot to mention thank you for the Easter egg video.
Oh, that was fun. And I saw you did some. I saw you made some Easter eggs. That was fantastic.
The Armchair General is here.
Hello, Armchair General. Hey, man, I saw you were playing some Catan. That sounded fun.
You gotta break that game out.
Yeah.
We have it sitting.
So if you, we do, and we should play it in real life. If IRL, is that what they say? So if you feel like your color's dulling out, or if you lost some, you can just go back. I'm going right back into the water with the marker, okay? And that's gonna boost some of that pigment back in there.
The Armchair General says, hello there. Even though I'm awful at 2D art, it is good to jump on every day and listen to Mr. McCallum's melodic voice.
Oh, the melodial voice. Thank you, Armchair. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to block in just some yellow in the background. And we're going to call this like a landscape, not like a seascape. And then I'm going to come...
It's a wheat field.
It's a wheat field. And then I'm just going to add a little bit of texture, repeating line coming in, okay? I could even be like up and down stuff.
We're just gonna try it.
We're gonna try it. I mean, I'm just figuring out what's possible here.
Doodler Skadoodler is here.
Doodler, welcome. This is an episode for you. We're using markers to add color into our composition, kind of like watercolor almost. Basically Crayola, water-based markers. And we're having fun with that, seeing what we can produce. We're also working kind of small, you'll notice. Small is very effective because it lets us work quickly, it lets us get our ideas out and experiment without the fear of failure. Okay, so again, I want to be careful because I don't want to overdo it. If you have a hair dryer, this is the time to bust it out and just dry that. I don't even know why I didn't bother. I should have.
If you don't have a hair dryer, buy one for your beard and your
for your beard and for your hair. And also, try this. This is very effective.
It will take you a while.
Or if you have a heat register, like on your HVAC, just hold it up and let that heat. Or put it in the no, don't put it
in the oven. If it's a windy day, throw it outside.
Yeah, throw it outside. Let it.
Just make sure you hold on to it.
Just let it dry. The key here, okay, I'm feeling it. It's fairly dry. Is not to use too much water. And then here's one thing that I feel like a lot of students do. They go one and done. It's like, oh, I did my thing. I'm done. You could always go back on top of this with colored pencil, with crayon to add texture. You can add things back in. So remember we had the Sharpie, right?
Sharpie.
Let's see if the Sharpie's watertight. Let's pretend we're kind of in the woods looking out into the savannah or the open prairie. Like we're in a little nestle of trees of some kind. What could we do? Well, let's put a little bit of a branch here, right? Maybe it's a dead tree that fell over. Okay, we can add that in. This feels like this. I'm feeling very Bob Ross right now, like happy little trees.
Well, he is sitting on your table.
I do have a Bob Ross.
A Pez dispenser
Yep.
and a Playmobil right behind.
Yes. So, and if you don't want to use the Sharpie, just use a some kind of
Pen.
Crayola marker. That's fine. A water-based one. What if we put some?
But if you use the water base, you can't go over with more color.
Right. So this is water fast. Okay, it is not going to blend out. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go on top of it with a little brown just to add like a natural tree vibe to it. Okay. And notice it's in the foreground, so that means we want it to have higher saturation, higher contrast.
Doodler Skadoodler says that she has a Bob Ross Funko Pop. Helena
Yeah.
says that she loves Bobby and that she has a Bob Ross bobblehead on her desk.
Oh my gosh. Guys, I'm so proud of you for having these items. All right, I'm just coming back in with some leaf detail.
The tree is no longer dead.
We don't want it to be like totally dead. This is kind of the early spring. Things are just popping out.
Pop, pop.
Okay, and we have ourselves a little composition.
Pretty nice.
I like it. You know,
We're gonna frame it. It will be on.
We're gonna frame it. It'll be. This is part of the quarantine art that's gonna happen. I want you to be empowered to make beautiful things with whatever you have on hand. I don't care if it's coffee, Kool-Aid, dirt, tea, Crayola markers, permanent markers. Use some of these techniques, okay? We're talking about elements and principles of design and purposefully. Design implies that we're doing things on purpose. So be purposeful with your patterns, with your textures, with your blends, with your color combinations. Use multiple layers and multiple mediums. Combine your crayons or colored pencil with your markers. Incorporate elements of pen and ink back in. If you don't like the super dark line, then find a color that's dark enough but not black to outline your drawings in. These hopefully are some tips that you can use when you're making your current artwork, okay? Let me know if you have any questions about these techniques or ideas of your own that we should explore here on the Helpful Art Tips show with Lil Lum. I love hanging out with you guys. I hope you're doing well. Hope you're making art. And I will see you, I guess, tomorrow for another episode of Lil Lum's Helpful Tips. Hang in there, guys. Love y'all. Be good.